Few days ago, I covered the story of Big U's son, Baby Yui, tragically being murdered in Los Angeles. Now, look, this was huge news for the LA streets. Obviously, everybody knows that Big U, the alleged leader of the Rolling 60s, has been indicted on serious charges. Okay, he's facing a whole RICO and potential murder charges. He's in a tough spot right now, okay? But he really was, and perhaps still is, really one of the most dangerous and one of the most feared figures in the LA streets. So the fact that his son ended up getting murdered on the streets of LA while he was incarcerated, that has a whole bunch of far-reaching, serious implications for the streets of LA. Now, in the aftermath of Baby Yui's murder, there's been a lot of speculation as to who might have been responsible, why this might have gone down in the particular area that it went down, and there's been a lot more chat, a lot more stuff that's come out since then. And I've also recovered some of the tweets that I couldn't find in the last video about Baby Yui that kind of give a little bit more backstory as to what his mindset might have been when he lost his life. So I'm going to run through a whole bunch of stuff for you in this video that you probably didn't know about the situation, and it's probably going to give you a few more insights as to exactly why this happened, even though we don't fully have like a complete picture of everything at this stage. So since I did my last video, there's been a few more pieces of information that have come out and some more kind of news reporting on the situation. So this is a news article about it that is going around that's got a few little extra details that I didn't touch on in my previous video. It says the son of alleged LA Crips leader Eugene Big U Henley is shot dead. The rapper was gunned down on Halloween night, with his family confirming the heartbreaking news. Now, this basically explains everything. It says Jabari Henley, aka Baby Yui, died after a fatal shooting. The son of Big U was gunned down on Friday night. Now, the LAPD responded to an interaction on the 69th Street and Figueroa Street, and obviously we touched on this previously, but Figueroa Street, Fig, all right, this is an area that's very heavily associated with the Hoover Gang, okay? This is a group of gangsters in LA. Everybody always talks about the Crips and the Bloods, the red versus the blue, but the Hoovers rep the orange, and they got a lot of problems with a lot of different gangs in LA. But apparently, a lot of people have been saying this doesn't have anything to do with the Hoovers, even though it was an area that kind of has been affiliated with them. Some people were saying that this was a kind of a Mexican hood, but essentially, this is where it went down, and there's been a lot of speculation about that, okay? So he was found with multiple gunshot wounds and pronounced dead at the scene. And basically the authorities haven't even confirmed whether the shooting was gang related, and it's possible that it wasn't, but we don't know exactly why this went down at this point. Now, Wack 100 is obviously somebody, he was very close to Big U at a certain point. They had a little bit of a falling out, but he does still seem to have a lot of love for Big U, and especially his son, Baby Yui. Now, he touched on some of the rumors that this was in a Hoover territory and it had something to do with the Hoovers. Now, Wack kind of gave a little bit of extra backstory that, you know, if there's anybody that's going to have like a good analysis, a good understanding of what's really going on in the LA streets, especially what's going on to do with Big U and Baby Yui, is Wack 100. So let's hear a little bit of what he kind of had to say about the situation, and he set some of the records straight as far as you know, certain people having involvement in this.
Not to say it was the Hoovers that did it, but he got killed in the Hoovers. That's
you gonna take it out on anybody.
That's borderline 7-4, borderline 5 You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it could have been anybody that late at night. Could have been some niggas over there who hunted and thought they got. Could have been the nigga that knew. Yep. Could have been all kind of shit. But I do know
all kind of scenario. What time was it at?
Probably about, when I get that call, maybe about midnight, 11.
Yeah.
Midnight.
Yeah. That's late. That's how late in LA to be going around.
Especially going to the weed shop.
Yeah, that's how late.
So Wack is basically saying, look, this happened close to the Hoover territory. It kind of has a little bit of suspicion associated with it. But in response to this, okay, we saw another kind of notorious figure that's been affiliated with the Hoovers, and somebody that's been, you know, quite notorious in a lot of interviews recently. He's popped up on No Jumper, having very controversial appearances. Is Gumby? Okay, so he popped out and he basically explained that the area where this went down, it wasn't necessarily a gang area. It was more like a pimping area.
Everything that goes on in California and LA, the Hoovers don't do it, bro. Everything. I don't give a f what it is. When PNB rock, all the Hoovers, everybody. We like the California boogeyman. Anything that happened in this state, they blame on us, bro. Now, they reported, oh, well, he got killed in Hooverhood. That is not our set. That is not. Anybody that's familiar with gang culture and areas know that area is not our area. That area is actually called Pimp Central, right? This what's the rap dude name?
So he's saying, look, that's not a Hoover area. People think Fig, it's got this affiliation with the Hoovers. But essentially, he's saying that this is a pimp central, okay? This is an area where there's a lot of pimping going on. Obviously, the Blade, all of that stuff people always talk about is going on Figueroa. Like, it's saying Figueroa where you can pick up ladies of the night and get your freak on, basically, is what he's trying to say. And so he basically goes on to explain that this area, he's calling it Pimp Central, it's filled with gangs that don't get along with the Hoovers. It's filled with cliques of pimps, all different kind of gangs. They end up in this area getting up to whatever they're getting up to in Pimp City, okay?
That area, and in that area there are all the gangs that don't get along with Hoover. This is where the crypt utopia at. If you are a gang member and you want to be a P, or you got some H's, I'm getting it, right? I mean, if that's what you're into and you're not a Hoover, you're welcome there. That's, what is it? They even got a little clique of pimps down there. You know what I'm saying? So he didn't get killed in Hoover Hood at all.
So he's denying that this went down in a Hoover Hood and it had something to do with the Hoovers. And he basically explained that, look, there's cliques of pimps down there. There's all types of stuff going on down there. There's different affiliations, different groups from different sets might be coming together to pimp and all of that kind of stuff. Now, he did go on to say something quite interesting here. He basically said that, look, Baby Yui was essentially walking up to a car in a dangerous area. He must have known the person that called him over. He wouldn't just walk up to a random car, but obviously things weren't as sweet as he thought, because he obviously walked up to a car that he would have thought was friendly, and they ended up opening fire and killing him. And he's basically saying that this is a dangerous area, so he would know better than to walk up to some random car and start politicking if he didn't know who was in that.
And being the fact of surrounding the facts that he walked to the car before he was shot, that leads me to believe that he knew the persons or the people. Now, being that this individual, Big Yui, I've heard of him, a few homies, my young nephews and shit, they know who he is, he's somebody to be respected. So if someone would call you to the car in the middle of the night, you would only walk to that car if you knew who that person was. You don't Figueroa. He wasn't a prostitute, so why would somebody call him to the car?
I'm not going to no car I don't know on Figueroa.
This is what I'm saying. This story
I might run on Figueroa. What, dude? They done call me on Fig?
So he's saying, look, I won't walk over to no car on Figueroa. I know better than that, okay? So it must have been someone friendly. It must have been someone he thought he was good with that he walked over. Now, Gumby would basically go on to explain that, look, Baby Yui, he knew these streets, all right? He knew how to operate in LA. He knew what areas were safe, what ones weren't. And that's Big U's son. Okay, and Big U really be running the streets over there. So they're saying that he should have known how to move. He really probably did know how to move. And that really, that makes it seem a bit like he was backdoored, or maybe it was someone who he should have been friendly with that opened fire. And he also pointed out that the fact that this went down where it did is kind of the perfect alibi to basically try and blame the Hoovers for what happened. But it could well have been somebody he was friendly with. I don't want to put it out there that the 60s are responsible for this, but we done heard it a million times. People talking about you not 60 until you kill a 60. The rolling 60s are known for having these internal beefs, these very vicious internal squabbles that end up leading 60s to kill other 60s. We saw what happened with Nipsey Hussle. And it's interesting what he's about to say, because he's basically saying, in a way, this was kind of set up in a way to make it look like the most obvious people, the Hoovers, might have something to do with it, but that's probably not the case.
Politics and gang area, so he went anywhere unarmed. So who was with him? Why would he walk to the car if he didn't know the people? So that leads me to believe that he was backdoored. And of course, they're gonna blame it on the Hoovers. Anything that go bad in LA, the Hoovers did it. Why wouldn't you blame your enemy? Why wouldn't you? That's a great strategy.
So the fact that this happened in this area led a lot of people to believe the Hoovers were responsible. Gumby would basically go on to say that there's already been a string of retaliations. Fortunately, these haven't been fatal, but apparently there's been a number of shootings already that have been targeting the Hoovers following Baby Yui's death. And because of where this happened and because of the assumptions about this particular area, a lot of people think it's the Hoovers, and they're not either there shooting first and asking questions later. And apparently, yes, there has been retaliations on the Hoovers already over this.
Everybody else's lives. And it goes back to my point with this situation and everybody blaming us for the unaliving of Big U's son, right? couple of hours after that happened, you know, I guess this community or somebody community was upset. It was saying we had a few different shootings in our community. You know what I'm saying? Nobody was unalive, thank God. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, like, everybody got to be safe out here, man.
So he's saying there's already been a string of shootings. Fortunately, nobody's died, but people are basically targeting the Hoovers, right? And essentially, this could easily snowball into more violence. You know, as Gumby has already said, it's already led to violence, okay? And Wack 100 came out to say something very positive, and I got to salute Wack 100. I got utmost respect for him for putting this out there. He basically said, look, this is the perfect time for Big U himself to step forward and call for peace in the community, because Big U's name holds weight. He might be one of the only people that can cause the violence to simmer down in the community, and really this great tragedy might just be an opportunity to call for peace and try and just have things simmer down, but who knows if that'll actually be successful.
This is when they need to hear Big U's voice for the first time over that federal phone saying, I do not want anybody to revenge my son's death and take the life of somebody else's child. See, this is when it need to happen. But let that would have been Officer motherfucking Brian Hinkleberry. Niggas would be throwing shit off the freeway. Our whole movement is fucked up, bro.
Looting shit, burning down stores and all types of stuff.
Yeah.
So look, he's basically saying, look, this is the time. This would be the perfect time for Big U to basically, you know, calm things down, simmer things down. Let's just see things. Let's see the temperature lower right now. Now, in the last video that I did about the Baby Yui situation, we'd found some tweets that kind of really gave a little bit of backstory into maybe some of the mental struggles that Baby Yui was going through before he passed away. He was very active on Twitter, but it seems like right after his passing, right after we'd kind of put together some things from his Twitter, his whole Twitter has been deleted. Now, we've actually managed to recover some of those tweets. I'm not going to show you all of them because some of them aren't really necessary, but I would say that this is actually like quite insightful because it did seem like even before Big U himself had been arrested, it did seem like he was going through it. Like Baby Yui was going through it mentally. He was going through some tough times. And it does make you think, you know, maybe that's part of the reason. Like maybe mentally he was suffering. He wasn't feeling so good about himself. And maybe that was a reason that he was, you know, going to dangerous places and maybe not looking out for his safety so much, you know. And that's no disrespect, but that's really just me trying to point out that like this guy was clearly battling some demons. And maybe he had kind of, you know, maybe he was over trying to move correctly. You know, you see a lot of these situations where people seem to kind of like get themselves in a real bad situation mentally, and it winds up leading them to kind of like be very reckless. It's almost like a form of self-harm where it's like they don't really care what happens to them at a certain point. Now, look, there was a whole bunch of tweets that he had posted, okay, him talking about his mental health and posting medical records. Now, what's really weird is I noticed from a lot of Baby Yui's tweets, it almost seems like he's talking about himself in the third person. Like he's always putting himself down and talking about himself in the third person. It says, how are you a schizo bipolar and you don't take your meds no more? I'm calling San Pedro. And then he's basically, you know, posting what seems to be like hospital reports. And what's really interesting here is it basically says that like it says here, you know, he's struggling with anxiety, and it says he's denying any suicidal or homicidal ideation, but he's basically not feeling too well and he's looking for a prescription. He's come in with a laceration and serious anxiety. He's dealing with a lot of difficult, you know, things going on, and he's basically posting that he's got a history of psychiatric disorder and generalized anxiety. He said that he was punched in the head yesterday and bled from his ear. He's not suicidal, but you know, he basically would like to see a therapist, and he's going through a lot. He's gone to the hospital to try and get the blood drained out of his ear after getting this injury. So he was kind of quite out there when it came to actually posting stuff, you know, about what he was going through in his mental state. And in this post, this one's quite alarming, right? So in this one, he basically seems to be talking about his father, Big U, being a killer. Okay, he says his daddy a killer. He wanna be Junior. He must have forgot about that stuff he done. Dementia must run in his family, but let it get shaky, I'm parking his son. Okay. Now look, I know these are the lyrics from Kendrick Lamar's Euphoria, but it's the fact that he's putting this, like, I get it, okay? Some people are gonna say, oh, it's cap, he's just posting lyrics from Kendrick Lamar's song, but his actual daddy is being accused of murder. The fact he's posting this is cryptic, but it kind of is what it is. Like, I feel like he's putting out these messages. He's definitely crying for help in some of these posts. And this was another post. This was a series of images that he posted, and it seems like he's kind of putting himself down. There's a picture of him in front of a wrecked Bentley, and then he's put, you know, a picture saying, with captions saying, untrustworthy, irresponsible, burnt out, crashes everyone's cars and has no money or insurance to pay for anything. Like, he kind of talking down on himself, but then posting this stuff. This is clearly somebody that's kind of, you know, just struggling with a lot of negative thoughts. He posted, his enabling mother lets him do whatever and supports him. His dad gave up and his siblings don't mess with him. Always got to do your research on these type of families and people. They'll try and hide everything about themselves. And again, he's basically posting his mental health appointment that's coming up. Obviously, if we go back to the last tweets that we posted, he was going through it mentally. He was looking for help. Unfortunately, he didn't get the help he needed. He said someone called San Pedro Mental Health where he needs to go and check in. They're looking for him. And then he posted his location, or the location of that, and he said he needs to go back here or back to jail. And then he posted again. He's saying, imagine having to call your family every time he would have an episode just so he doesn't kill you. If you're mentally ill, please take your meds and stop hurting pretty girls who don't deserve it, because nobody does. Hashtag domestic violence awareness. And he would come back with another kind of back-to-back bunch of image posts on Twitter, which, again, these have all been deleted now, but they have been backed up from when the Twitter was still active. And this, again, is just another kind of back-to-back bunch of posts that seem to refer to, like, stealing and begging for money and talking about how he's using his dad. He put, this seems to be some surveillance footage he put up. It says, breaks into people's houses, steals, and breaks everything, then snitches. This is like a Zelle request. He's basically saying, just confirm that you sent a request from Zelle for $40. And he says, begs his rich friends for money and spends it on drugs. Posted this picture up. Okay. He said, big gum horsemouth can't respect no bee who enables their son. Guessing this is his mum, knows about his issues and won't help it. Matter of fact, this is the same person who encourages him and says it's because she's white, not black. She's racist. Meanwhile, her husband cheats on her all day, every day. Like, this is crazy stuff to be putting out there. This is another one. It says, post stuff like this, but caps, he doesn't pay a dime to his barbers. He's ruined all type of relationships with people. He used his dad's face card to get around, and it's failing him miserably. He depends on his mom and his little brother. He's a dusty bum. $100 haircut. You know, it's quite disturbing, just all of this stuff that he was putting out there. Now, one of the last photos posted on the account was this post here that I'm going to show you, and it's basically showing, man, yeah, it's actually crazy, man. So I can't even read that because I don't want to get banned from YouTube again. But it basically says, however you want to talking in the third person, should wear a costume too. He fit right in, acting like he gonna shoot something. Boy, with your scary ass. Y'all should see the shooting range video. Carl was scared to shoot a handgun indoors, shaking and stuff. Clown ass dude. Okay. And it's a picture of him, I guess, with some cosplayers at, like, I don't know if this was Comic-Con or something like that. But basically, he just took a picture with these folks on the street and just posted this crazy, quite strange incident, this strange caption, which is it's just quite disturbing. And just to think this is all the stuff that was going through his mind before he passed away, you know. I mean, this one's crazy too, right? He's posting a clipping from an LA Times article where it basically says that Big U's wife actually proposed to him 30 years after they got together, or 30 years after they'd previously got married in the LA County Jail. And oh no, so she proposed to him 30 years ago. That's what they're basically saying, right? And she's saying that she proposed, and her and Big U got married in the LA County Jail in 1992 behind a glass partition in a hasty ceremony that was might or might not have been permitted by law enforcement. It was 10 minutes, no wedding dress, no pictures. And Baby Yui posted this. He said, not my mom, Big U wife proposing to him, desperate as F, but damn, all of that to get cheated on damn near every day is crazy. Sad story. Like, this is crazy that he's posting this about his dad and about his mom. Like, it's pretty extreme. Okay, so look, in the midst of all of this sad stuff going on, and you heard it yourself from those tweets, you know, Baby Yui basically said that his own family doesn't mess with him anymore. But you know, essentially his brother Dion Henley, who plays for the Chargers, he's an NFL player. Clearly they weren't getting on, but he posted this kind of heartfelt post about Baby Yui's passing. He said, 2025 has brought me more pain than joy, and this one has been by far the biggest hit. My family's going to stand through the storm because that's who we are. I'm going to make sure that we're straight, big bro. I got nephew. Don't even worry about it. I love you. Allah blessed me with one more night with my big brother. Didn't know you'd be gone the next day. Forever Yui. Thank you for the love and the condolences. Truly means the world to me and the fam. We are fighters. So, look, this is just a sad situation all around. It seems like Baby Yui was really going through some stuff before he passed away. There were more tweets that we couldn't recover, but like I saw some really disturbing stuff there that just made me think, man, this is somebody who was really dealing with a lot. Like he really had a lot on his shoulders, and you know he was really probably struggling with a lot of stuff. So I'm just so sad to hear that like he was going through all that, and you know he didn't really get the help that he needed in time. Who knows exactly what happened? I'm going to keep digging. I'm going to keep my eyes open for any new information about this situation. I'm sure law enforcement will get to the bottom of this, because I think because it's such a high profile situation, especially with the Big U trial going on, I don't think they're going to let that go unanswered. You know, I would hope. But then again, there's LAPD dragging their feet about a couple other things that have been going on that you've probably seen covered on this channel, so we really don't know. Okay, but I'll keep you guys updated. Rest in peace to Baby Yui, man. Just another tragic situation, you know. No matter what you're going through, no matter what your father's done, man, nobody deserves to go out like that. And just my condolences to his family, and just everything that's going on right now is just really not cool. And just, you know, I just hope that they can move through this positively. But I'll update you guys on this. If I get any more news, I'll keep an eye out. You know, I'm going to be keeping track and doing some research into what's been going on. So if I get more info, I'll be sure to update you guys. But until then, I'll catch you in the next video. Thank you for watching, guys, and I'm out. Peace.